Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney becoming the latest high-profile Republican to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for president. She made those comments yesterday during an appearance at Duke University. The Harris campaign welcomed Cheney's support, calling her a, quote, patriot who loves this country and puts our democracy and our Constitution first.
Well, you know, that's actually, Willie, that's what's at issue here. We're not talking really about ideology of either of these candidates, in large part because Donald Trump has no ideology, and they are both racing to the center. So the lines are getting blurred. But, you know, somebody in the Republican Party who may attack Liz Cheney say, oh, my gosh. Oh, so you're going to abandon your pro-life position like Donald Trump? Is that what, are you talking about, like Donald Trump abandoning his right in front of our eyes? No, not really. She's just voting for democracy. She's voting that the constitutional republic endures with Madisonian checks and balances. Then they go, well, what about the southern border? The southern border is, are you going to abandon that issue? Like Donald Trump, who killed the toughest bill ever? I mean, you know, the deficit. What about the deficit? I thought you were a small government conservative. Donald Trump, biggest deficits ever, biggest debt ever, biggest federal budget ever when he was in office. So again, this is not about ideology, because Donald Trump is not a conservative, something I've been saying here since 2015. He doesn't talk like a conservative. He's abandoned conservatives on the issues that matter to them the most. So at this point, are you for a personality cult? Do you want to be in a personality cult, or do you want the republic to endure? That's what it comes down to, as far as the republic as we have known it, with Madisonian democracy and checks and balances. And Liz Cheney shows Madisonian democracy. It shouldn't be a shock.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. It's not shocking that she's come out and said this, although she didn't have to make an affirmative vote for Kamala Harris the way she said she will. She could have just said, I'm not voting for Donald Trump, but she believes the race is too important and will be too close to throw away a vote in her eyes. What is shocking, Joe, though, is that yours and hers among actual conservatives now is a minority position, which is to say, most Republicans, most people who call themselves conservatives now or were conservatives but really are just Trump supporters now, they are going along for the ride with all the things you just laid out, all the contradictions that Donald Trump presents to conservatives, all the flip-flopping on core issues like abortion, the debt and the deficit, immigration, all of those things. What she's saying is, not only has Donald Trump flip-flopped on that, but he represents something that is so counter, not just to conservatism, but to the American way of life, to democracy, that she's got to stand in the door. And Mike, I guess the only surprise to me over these last, whatever it's been since January 6th, when she officially really took the lead on that investigation, along with many Democrats, is that more Republicans haven't taken that door that was presented on January 6th and said, he has abandoned us, he has left us, he has led us down this disastrous path. We have no choice but to oppose him. But again, she, Adam Kinzinger, other Republicans still in the minority among conservatives, among Republicans.
Most of the conservative Republicans seem to be afraid to open that door. Liz Cheney was unafraid yesterday, and you just alluded to what she said when she said one of the reasons that she's voting for Kamala Harris, or will vote for Kamala Harris, is the danger that Donald Trump represents. The danger that Donald Trump represents. And it's kind of shocking, given his record, given his rhetoric, given everything he posts on his crazy social media channel, Truth Social, whatever it's called. It's so vulgar, so opposite to what this country stands for, so opposite to what people look forward to in an election. Elections about the future. Donald Trump is about the past, but he represents a true danger to the fabric of this culture of ours, this society of ours, and to the institutions that represent our government.
Well, and he talks about, we can talk about January 6th, the insurrection. We can talk about the fact that he said, and his lawyers argued, right? Because usually when he says something outrageous, like he's going to be a dictator from day one, people go, oh, he's just joking. And then, of course, he doubles down and proves he's not joking. And those people are left looking stupid, as always. But his lawyer in court argued that he could assassinate political rivals. assassinate political rivals with SEAL Team 6, and still not have the law arresting. That he's immune from that. He talks about being a dictator from day one, talks about terminating the Constitution, lied about the election results, tried to undermine American democracy for years. And then yesterday or the day before, suddenly he says, oh, wait a second, maybe I just lost by a whisker. You know, on and on and on. But you look, and again, this is a party divided against itself. When you have Liz Cheney, who had a 95 ACU lifetime rating, I had a 95 ACU lifetime rating. It's higher than most everybody else. You have Adam Kinzinger, who served this country proudly and is a conservative. David French. Yeah. You have people who have been conservative their entire lives saying, we can't go there because this is not any other election. This is about the future of this country and how our governments run.
Well, and we need a strong conservative Republican Party, and that is not Donald Trump or the party that he is leading, not even close. And a lot of people, we've met some Republicans who, over the summer, and spent time with them, who voted for Trump and can't anymore because their belief is a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for potentially the Republican Party ultimately having a chance to rebuild itself. But it only can do that without Donald Trump.
And that's what Jonathan Martin was, we're going to be talking about this later. Jonathan Martin reported on this in Politico yesterday, that there are Republicans, more and more Republicans, secretly helping Donald Trump loses because they believe that's their best chance, and lose big. That's their best chance to reform the Republican Party. But make no mistake of it. Wherever we go, wherever our friends go, we hear people spouting talking points from other news networks, lies, and the most ridiculous lies that are disconnected from reality that keeps them in this personality cult of Donald Trump's. And so this is going to be a really close election. Make no mistake of it.